On our wedding night, my wife told me she was going for IVF with her male best friend. After 5 years of dating, from campus to wedding bells, our relationship had finally reached its happy ending. But just as I held my wife in my arms, about to slip off her wedding dress, her male best friend knocked on our bedroom door. "Kick, we said we'd go for the IVF procedure tonight. The doctor just called to remind us." The male best friend shot me a disdainful look after speaking. I stared steadily at my wife, waiting for her explanation. "Honey, A Sheng is my closest male best friend. I promised I'd have a baby with him. Don't worry, nothing will happen between us. It's just having a baby, that's all." I stood up, grabbed the car keys from the nightstand and handed them to my wife with a gentle smile. "It's okay, baby. It's just having a baby, of course I trust you. It's late and unsafe to take a taxi. Take my car. Drive safely." My wife looked at me with a complicated expression, as if she wanted to say something more. But the male best friend beside her pulled her out of the house before she could speak. I stared quietly at the calendar hanging next to our wedding photo on the wall. No one knew how long I had waited for this moment. My bride had decided to have a test tube baby with her male best friend. And deep down I was overjoyed. I lit a cigarette and went downstairs. The groomsmen were gathered around playing mahjong in the living room, and the bridesmaids were sitting together gossiping. When they saw me come down, Shukai, the groomsman sitting right across from me, looked surprised. "Wedding night is worth its weight in gold. What are you doing down here? Tired out already? Can't keep up?" After Sukai finished speaking, the group burst into laughter. A bridesmaid nearby spoke up carefully. "Did none of you see Kit go out with Song Chushang just now?" Just then, someone won a hand of mahjong, ending the round, and no one seemed eager to start a new game. The groomsman who'd won stood up and lit a cigarette, blowing smoke rings into the air. The bridesmaid beside him stepped back a little. "Must have seen wrong. Isn't the bride upstairs the whole time?" "Kik really isn't upstairs. She just went out with Song Chushang." Several people turned to look at me at once, confused. "Xian, no wonder you came down. But what are they going out for on your wedding night? Tell us what's going on, brothers. We'll handle it for you." I stubbed out my cigarette in the ashtray and sat down in an empty seat. "You guys really can't help with this one. My wife went for IVF with her male best friend." The moment the words left my mouth, the room fell dead silent. After a few seconds of quiet, Sukai looked at me in disbelief. "Xian, your wife is going for IVF with another man on your wedding night, and you don't even react? What is wrong with you?" Sukai was famous among my college roommates for his short temper, so his reaction didn't surprise me at all. "What's the big deal? It's just having a baby. Xian, we watched you date Chunkik for 5 years. All these years you never got mad no matter how close she got to that male best friend of hers. Now your wife is about to have a baby with another man, and you still don't care? Are you really that much of a doormat?" "Sukai, I don't agree with that. How can you call it being a doormat? This is love." Sukai's face turned red with anger. "Jiu Jian, how can you be so spineless for this woman? If she handed you a cuckold, would you take it with a smile and even compliment her on how nice it looks?" Shukai's words sounded like he was standing up for me, but they made me uncomfortable. The other groomsmen chimed in one after another, trying to talk some sense into me. But I didn't want to listen. I just found them annoyingly loud. I stood up, walked over to Sukai, and punched him square in the face before he could react. Caught off guard, Sukai stumbled backward several steps. I kept advancing, pinned him to the ground, and punched him again and again. "Don't you dare badmouth my wife. No one is allowed to say a bad word about her." Soon the others in the living room pulled us apart. Sukai lay on the ground, his face black and blue, and I had a cut on my face too. For a moment the scene turned extremely ugly. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth with my sleeve, pointed at them and roared, "If I hear any of you badmouth my wife again, I'll beat every last one of you." Sukai was helped to his feet by the other groomsmen, cursing me under his breath. "Ji Yuzhan, you're fucking insane." I pointed at the door and told him to get out. The other groomsmen and bridesmaids left soon after. The living room was empty at last. Finally, quiet. Around 2 in the morning, Chun Kik and Song Chushang came back, chatting and laughing. When Chun-Kik saw the cut on my face, she asked with concern. What happened? How did you get hurt? They said bad things about you. I beat them up. I stepped forward and stroked Chun-Kik's cold hands, my voice full of affection. You must be hungry, baby. I'll make you noodles. Then I turned to Song Chushong, who was standing nearby, and dismissed him. It's late. You should go home. With that, I walked into the kitchen to make noodles for my wife. But Song Chushong just sat down on the sofa and started scrolling through his phone casually, as if he were the man of the house. I took scallions and cilantro out of the fridge. Chun-Kik loved cilantro most of all. When Chun-Kik saw what I was doing, she walked over and tied my apron for me from behind. Honey, it's so late and it's not safe outside. Let us Shang stay the night, okay? My hands stilled mid-cut on the cilantro. Noticing this, Chun-Kik tugged at the hem of my shirt and cooed. Please? Chun-Kik had a pure sweet look and a soft voice. All these years, I'd never been able to resist when she acted cute. Okay, whatever you want, baby. Go wait in the living room. I'll call you when it's ready. Chun-Kik walked out of the kitchen. Before she left, she called over her shoulder. Oh, and honey knows cilantro in a Shang's noodles. After the embryo transfer, my wife quit her job to rest carefully at home during the pregnancy. I was busy with work every day, leaving early and coming home late. So Chun-Kik suggested that Song Chushong move into our new house to take care of her. For convenience, Chun-Kik gave my car keys to Song Chushong. She said it was so Song Chushong could go out and buy things the baby would need. That night when I got home, Chun-Kik and Song Chushong were eating at the dining table. When she saw me come in, Chun-Kik flustered. Honey, I didn't know when you'd be back, so I didn't order any food for you. I walked over to the table and stared at the greasy, half-eaten leftovers. My stomach turned. Swallowing back the nausea, I looked at my wife dotingly. Her belly was already starting to show. Baby, I've been feeling under the weather these past 2 days. Can I have the car keys? I need to go to the hospital. A flicker of panic crossed Chun-Kik's eyes, like she had something to hide. Honey, A Shung took your car to buy me food yesterday. He got rear-ended on the way back. The towing company took it away. I glanced back at Song Chushong, who was still eating, acting like he had nothing to do with any of it. It's okay, baby, as long as no one got hurt. I left the house and hailed a taxi, but I didn't go to the hospital. When I arrived at the 4S shop, the receptionist told me my car was already fixed. I paid, drove the car away, and pulled a plush toy from the back seat. I pried out the eyes of the toy. Was a tiny hidden camera. I twirled the miniature camera in my fingers, feeling an immense sense of satisfaction. Old memories flooded my mind, and before I knew it, a single tear rolled down my cheek. Sister, do you really love him that much? I drove the car back to the underground garage. When I got home, the master bedroom light was still on. The guest room, where Song Chushong usually slept, on the other hand, was already dark. I was about to knock and ask my wife why she was still up, when I heard Chun-Kik and Song Chushong talking inside the room. Kik, let me feel the baby. Who do you think our baby will look like? Chun-Kik giggled, her voice soft and sweet. A Shung, this is our baby. No matter who he looks like, I'll love him with all my heart. What if he looks like your husband? How could that be? This is our baby. Why would he look like that simpering doormat? Their harsh, mocking laughter reached my ears. I didn't knock on the door. I turned and walked into the study. On the wall across from the desk in the study hung our wedding photo. Next to the photo hung an unremarkable wall calendar. I flipped through the calendar and found the date of Chun-Kik's due date, months from now. It was circled in red marker. I felt not a single ripple of emotion in my heart. I was more eager for this baby to be born than anyone else. Ever since we got married, I'd been sleeping in the study. At first, Song Chushong stayed in the guest room next to Chun-Kik's. Then they started sharing the master bedroom, the one that was supposed to be mine and Chun-Kik's wedding room. I pretended not to see anything, still leaving early and coming home late every day. When they realized I didn't get mad even when I saw them coming out of the same room, they grew bolder, convinced I was a pushover. At night when I got home, Chun-Kik would prop herself up on her belly and order me around. Honey, get me a basin of foot washing water. And don't put the herbal sachet in a Shang's. On weekends when I was on the sofa scrolling through my phone, Chun-Kik would walk over to me. Honey, hand wash my socks for me. Okay. My belly's too big. Do a shunks too while you're at it. I did everything she asked, like a loyal servant. Honey, I want noodles. Ashang wants dumplings. Hand-rolled noodles, freshly made dumplings. Honey, you're so busy. Let Ashang come with me to the prenatal checkup this week. Just transfer me the money. Honey, my belly's getting bigger and bigger. It's hard for me to bathe by myself. Let Ashang help me bathe. I agreed to everything. I was clearly Chun-Kik's husband, yet I lived like an outsider every time she called me honey. When Chun-Kik was 8 months pregnant, moving around had become difficult for her. Song Chusheng started talking to the belly for prenatal education. Chun-Kik looked down at her stomach with a tender, loving expression. They were both full of anticipation for the baby's arrival, even staying up late lately preparing for it. I stared at the calendar in the study, the next day's date circled in red. This moment had finally come. At noon the next day, Chun-Kik was sunbathing on the balcony when she accidentally tripped and fell. When she tried to get up, a pool of water spread beneath her. I knew her water had broken. Chun-Kik had gone into premature labor. Song Chusheng and I rushed her to the hospital and she went into delivery. Halfway through, the doctor asked me if I wanted an epidural. I took the pen without hesitation and signed. Give it to her. She has to have it. I won't let my wife suffer. Song Chusheng looked at me with undisguised contempt from beside me. You really love your wife that much, Ji Yu-jun? I've never met anyone as much of a doormat as you. Song Chusheng, you can say whatever you want about me, but don't badmouth my wife. I don't blame you for looking down on me. It's because my wife cares about you that I haven't hit you yet. Then I'm curious, Ji Yu-jian. You know full well the baby your wife is having is mine. Are you still going to raise him like your own son? As long as my wife gives birth to him, he's my child. I don't know how long we waited before good news came from the delivery room. Chun-Kik had given birth to a baby boy. Mother and son were both safe and well. The doctor showed us the baby briefly before rushing him off to the neonatal incubator. Chun-Kik's parents hurried over from their hometown. For a moment, everyone was caught up in the joy. The next night, I was sitting by Chun-Kik's bedside while everyone else went to eat and rest. I fed Chun-Kik a few spoonfuls of plain congee and she fell asleep. I looked at the sleeping baby beside the bed, picked him up in my arms, and quietly carried him out of the hospital. I brought the baby back to my studio and blocked everyone's contact information. Early the next morning, Chun-Kik was pushed in a wheelchair by her parents, followed by a crowd of relatives and friends, and showed up at the door of my studio. They were smart enough to find the studio business card I'd left in the study. After taking a phone call, Song Chusheng stepped quickly to the front of the crowd. Ji Yujian, open this door right now. You've got the guts to steal a baby, but not the guts to open the door? A group of relatives started pounding on the glass door, making a deafening racket. I pressed the button in my hand unhurriedly. The door slid open, and the crowd swarmed inside. But they could only watch me through a sheet of glass. From inside my enclosed space, I watched them roar in anger and throw things around. I set the baby cradle on the table in front of me. Through the glass door, everyone caught sight of the newborn baby. Honey, what are you doing? Give me back my baby, please. Chun-Kik sat weakly in her wheelchair. When she saw the baby in front of the glass, tears streamed uncontrollably down her face. I watched them with amusement. Someone in the crowd pulled out a phone to call the police, and someone else started live streaming, putting me on public trial. I rummaged through a drawer with both hands and pulled out a fruit knife. I pointed the blade toward the baby. Seemingly sensing the danger, the swaddled infant began to wail loudly. The crowd outside the glass room erupted in commotion. Song Chusheng, standing at the front, had nothing but worry in his eyes. He threw his body against the glass again and again, but the door didn't budge. In their panic, someone even grabbed a hammer from a toolkit, but my glass door remained completely undamaged. Honey, I'm begging you. Don't hurt my baby. He's our baby. Honey, you've always wanted a son, haven't you? I picked up an apple from the side and started peeling it with the knife. You're wrong, baby. Have you forgotten? This is the baby you went for IVF with your male best friend on our wedding night, remember? For a moment, the crowd behind Chun Kik murmured in shock. After all, they'd all thought this was the baby of the married couple. I kept peeling the apple slowly. When I glanced up, there was an unfamiliar man in the crowd. The man was wearing a hat, blending into the crowd as if waiting for the right moment. Chun Kik's father stepped forward 2 paces. Xiaoju, even if Kik was reckless and this first baby isn't yours, he's still a living human being. How could you bear to hurt an innocent child? Chun Kik's mother stepped forward right after. Xiaoju, Auntie knows you're a good boy. Even if this baby isn't yours, he still came from Kik's womb. Kik will have your baby later. Don't do anything impulsive, please. I twirled the fruit knife in my hand and took a bite of the peeled apple with the other. Seeing this, Chun Kik panicked. She was afraid I'd drive the knife into her baby, and even more afraid that all my meek obedience had been an act. When I ignored her, Chun Kik pushed past her parents and fell to her knees in front of the glass door. Honey, I'm begging you. Spare my baby. I know you've been wronged all this time. As long as you don't hurt him, I'll make it up to you, I promise. I watched Chun Kik, who'd always cared so much about her appearance, kneeling on the ground begging in such a humiliating state, and I only found it laughable. Kik, do you really think just because a baby came out of your womb, it must be yours? Chun Kik stared at me in shock. Her parents helped her up off the floor. The people behind her started judging me morally. They say a single day of marriage builds 100 days of kindness. But he's just vicious, going after a newborn baby like this. Exactly. Even if the baby isn't yours, you had no right to take him away. He's a total psychopath if you ask me. No wonder Kik doesn't like him and won't have his baby. Ji Yuzhan, listen to me. If you know what's good for you, you'll bring the baby out unharmed. Otherwise none of us will let you get away with this. Right, we can't let him get away with it. We can't let him get away with it. Suddenly several uniformed men appeared at the entrance. They showed their badges to the crowd. Hello. We received a report of child trafficking here. May I ask which of you called the police? When the police arrived, I stood up and called out loudly to the people outside the glass room. I called the police. The crowd turned around, stunned once again. Chun Kik's parents grabbed a nearby officer, crying loudly, "Officer, it's him. He stole my daughter's baby. My grandson is in danger. Arrest him, please. Yes, he's a baby snatcher. Arrest him now." The officer stepped forward and spotted the baby in the cradle on the table. Is what they're saying true? Why did you take the baby? I stood up and looked at everyone across the glass. What they're saying is true. I brought him here to protect him. Even though this baby was born to my wife and another man, an innocent child should not suffer. I don't want anything to happen to him. Officer, he's lying. He's the only one here who would hurt the baby. Exactly. He's the only one endangering the child. One officer told the crowd to quiet down, while the other continued to study me through the glass. If you say you're protecting the baby, why won't you let the mother come in? And why have you locked yourself away from everyone? Because I need to protect the baby and myself. This baby is not mine. And he's not my wife's either. I saw the fury in Chun Kik's eyes. She pointed at me and said to the police, "Officer Ji Yuzhan is lying. He just wants to steal my baby. This baby is clearly the test tube baby I had with my male best friend. I went through every step of it. I carried him for 8 months and gave birth to him. How dare he say he's not mine?" A female officer calmed Chun Kik down while the officer facing me gestured for me to continue. I watched the phones held up by Chun Kik's relatives in the crowd, and old memories welled up inside me. Officer, I know words aren't proof. I have evidence. This baby belongs to my wife's male best friend, Song Chushang. But he does not belong to my wife. With that, I picked up my phone and played a recording I'd prepared long ago. It was the sound of Song Chushang talking on the phone in my car. "Don't worry, baby. This time it's foolproof. Relax. I've got a strong feeling that stupid woman is carrying a boy. I provided the seed myself, baby. Don't you want to keep him and raise him ourselves? Fine, fine. If you don't want him, we won't keep him. The buyer is paying 500,000 for this baby after all. That's no small sum. Don't worry. As soon as the baby's born, I'll take him away. Then we'll take the money and leave this place for good." Let that stupid woman and her loser husband cry their eyes out. The crowd listened in disbelief. They couldn't hear the person on the other end of the line, but Chun-Kik recognized Song Chushang's voice immediately. Chun-Kik walked over to Song Chushang and stared at him doubtfully. Shang, is it really you? You were going to sell our baby? Seeing the police walking toward him, Song Chushang scrambled to explain. Kik, how could that be me? It must be Zhu Jian. He hates our baby, so he edited this fake recording to frame me. Kik, you have to believe me. After all this time, don't you know what kind of person I am? Chun-Kik looked at the flustered Song Chushang, then walked over to the police. Officer, my husband probably forged this recording. Please don't wrong Shang. Hearing Chun-Kik's words, I could only laugh. She was laughably stupid. Officer, a recording can be forged. But what about video? I plugged a USB drive into the computer and soon the video was projected on to the large screen outside. The footage on the screen showed Song Chushang making the phone call. Every word he said matched the recording I just played perfectly. Well, Chun-Kik, do you still believe what your male best friend says? Chun-Kik looked at Song Chushang, her face full of disappointment. Shang, why would you do this? You said you loved me, that you couldn't have children on your own, and wanted a baby that was ours. I agreed to go through with the IVF. I even thought this would be the only baby I'd ever have. Why would you do this to me? By the time Song Chushang tried to stand up, he had already been subdued by a swift-moving police officer. He stopped resisting altogether, and burst into wild, unhinged laughter. Chun-Kik, blame your own stupidity. You're the dumbest woman I've ever met. Other women would hesitate when I mentioned IVF. But you? You agreed without a second thought. If this man hadn't meddled, I would have sold the baby by now. Song Chushang's laughter bordered on madness. Chun-Kik's parents looked at their daughter with heartache. The relatives who'd come to back them up exchanged awkward glances and fell silent, as if watching a joke that had nothing to do with them. The man live streaming in the crowd dropped his phone by accident. A nearby officer spotted it and told him to turn off the stream. The whole incident was recorded on the officer's body cameras. No one could twist the truth. I stepped out of the glass room and handed the swaddled baby to the female police officer beside me. Chun-Kik sat dazed on the floor, her eyes empty. When she saw me hand the baby to the officer, she jumped up to snatch him back. I stepped forward and blocked her path. Chun-Kik, snap out of it. This isn't your baby. He is my baby. What right do you have to say he's not? I pulled out a file folder and tossed it in front of her. It was the paternity test between Chun-Kik and the baby. I knew you wouldn't believe me, so I had a paternity test done. See for yourself whether he's yours. Chun-Kik opened the file, and her face twisted in shock when she saw the result. She shared no biological relation with the child. She shook her head and handed the file to her parents behind her. Why? Why is this happening? Because they thought your eggs weren't good enough. You were just a vessel for them to carry the baby. Chun-Kik, you thought Song Chushang was your true love. But to him, you're nothing. You're just a tool he uses to make money. Tears slid down Chun-Kik's cheeks unbidden. Every other time she'd cried in front of me, I'd pulled her into my arms with tenderness. But not anymore. I let her collapse back onto the floor, sobbing and broken. Chun-Kik was an adult. Adults had to take responsibility for their own mistakes. The officers held Song Chushang and pressed him about whether he had accomplices on the scene. He just laughed as if nothing they said could reach him. I looked at the unfamiliar figure in the crowd and walked over to him. Hello. I don't believe I saw you at my wedding to Chun-Kik. May I ask your name? Everyone who'd come today was a relative from Chun-Kik's hometown. One look and I knew exactly who he was. The man in front of me tried to turn and leave. The nearby relatives looked over at the sound of my voice. This guy doesn't look like one of our Chun relatives. Those words put the officers on alert. The man turned to run. But he was no match for trained police officers. He was caught and dragged back before he'd gotten far. The man was pushed back to the scene by the officers. Under everyone's confused gazes, only Song Chushang avoided eye contact. Who is he? Officer, I don't know him. He's not my relative. Chun-Kik stepped forward and studied the man's face. He was a stranger, yet something about him felt off. I walked over to the officers and pulled the baseball cap off the man's head. You might not know him, Kik, but he knows you. After all, in his eyes, you're the mistress who stole his man. Chun Kik looked confused, then glanced over at Song Chushang. Sir, do you know this suspect? An officer stepped closer to me, seemingly suspicious of my identity. The officer beside him tensed, ready to restrain me at any moment, because I know this man is the real mastermind behind the child trafficking ring. The crowd erupted in an uproar. Some of Chun Kek's relatives dared to speak up, others murmured under their breath. How do you know this guy is the mastermind? Are you working with him? Yeah, neither of them look like good people to me. Arrest both of them. They're just turning on each other now that they've been caught. Exactly. I looked at the two men restrained by the police, then slowly walked to the center of the crowd. This man might not know me, but I know him. His name is Sheng Nan. He's Song Chushang's boyfriend. The crowd wore all kinds of expressions. Chun Kek's face was a mix of complexity and doubt. Sheng Nan and Song Chushang looked panicked, like clowns stripped of their masks. Shut the hell up. You're lying. Sheng Nan's eyes blazed with rage like he wanted to tear me apart. I handed a plastic-sealed phone to the police officer. Officer, this is evidence from the first victim. 5 years ago, Sheng Nan tricked a female college student for money. He convinced her he loved her, and talked her into going back to his hometown for IVF. She believed him, thought she was helping him raise money. But that scum was just recruiting people for a black market clinic. That girl never blamed him, even when she died. She thought it was just her bad luck. After she died, he disappeared. He fled to another city, met Song Chushang, and after they got together, they picked up their old trade again. Song Chushang tricks girls into getting IVF, and Sheng Nan finds infertile buyers online. They don't see human lives as lives. To them, babies and women are nothing but merchandise. The crowd gasped. Some people tried to lunge forward to hit them, but the police held everyone back and dispersed the crowd. Chun Kik and I followed the police back to the station to give statements. Everyone left one by one. Under police investigation, Sheng Nan confessed. He was Song Chushang's boyfriend, and the suspect who'd tried to run away earlier. 5 years ago, Sheng Nan had met Song Chushang in the gay community, and they'd hit it off immediately. They'd started trafficking babies to make quick money. Sheng Nan found buyers online while Song Chushang sought out women to carry IVF babies. Those children were never biologically the women's. They were pre-selected by the buyers. Song Chushang's role was to implant the embryos into those women's bodies to carry to term. They'd made enormous profits off this criminal chain. Following the leads, the police took down every link in the operation. Dozens of people were involved and the case drew widespread public attention. Song Chushang and Sheng Nan were locked up in prison. Chun Kik was fined and given a formal reprimand. I was released after cooperating with the police investigation. Before I left, I asked the officers what would happen to the baby. Right now, both of the child's parents are suspects in the case, so he will likely be placed in a welfare home for care. When I got home, I looked at the new house I'd bought for our marriage. It didn't feel like a newlywed home at all. I listed the house for sale online. A few days later, Chun Kik found me. She'd left the house before her postpartum recovery was over, and she looked terribly weak. She was waiting downstairs at my studio, like she'd been there a long time. When she saw me come out, she ran over and grabbed my arm. Honey, why won't you see me? Are you leaving me? I pulled my arm away and stepped back, putting distance between us. Chun Kik, if I remember correctly, we never got a marriage license. I don't deserve to be called your husband. Back then, Chun Kik had refused to get the marriage license because of Song Chushang. She didn't want to, so I'd never pushed her, but now that Song Chushang had betrayed her, she was coming back to me. And I would never treat her the way I used to. Honey, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. Let's start over. I swear I'll only love you. We can have our own baby. We can be happy together. Okay? She cooed and acted cute, knowing that used to work on me. Chun Kik, people only get one chance to make amends. And I don't plan on forgiving you. Don't come looking for me again. I don't want to see you anymore. Chun Kik tried to step closer and say more, but I stopped her. At that, she laughed. Ji Yujan, Why did you stop groveling all of a sudden? You used to love fawning over me, didn't you? She looked down at me like I was some toy she owned. She looked down at me like I was some toy she owned. There was disdain in her eyes, contempt, and the resignation of someone settling for less. Chun-Kik, this is the real you. You thought I was a lovesick puppy who couldn't live without you. But I only let you think that. 5 years ago, when you made that bet with Song Chusheng, I already knew you were the real outsider. Song Chusheng never liked you. He likes men. You know that baby you gave birth to? I met the buyer Song Chusheng picked out a couple days ago. The guy's in jail now, cursing Song Chusheng out for being a bastard. I pushed past Chun-Kik and went home. A few days later, when I was closing up the studio, the security guard downstairs told me about Chun-Kik. She'd started fixating on the baby again. Every day she'd rock a pillow in her arms, saying it was her child. Chun-Kik's mental state grew worse and worse. Her parents stopped letting her go out. She was locked in her room all day, muttering and cooing at the pillow in her arms. A few days later, a buyer made an offer on my house. After selling it, I bought a new place on the outskirts of the city. Then I bought a bouquet of roses and drove to a cemetery. I set the roses down in front of a gravestone. The name carved into it read, Ju Zua. Sister, I came to see you. I brought your favorite roses. Sister, I have good news today. The people who hurt you finally got what they deserved. Sister, are you doing okay over there? Memories flash back to 5 years ago, when my sister Juzawa was still in college. After our parents passed away, my sister and I only had each other to rely on. As the Mid-Autumn Festival drew near, my sister texted me saying she would bring her boyfriend home for dinner. I was so happy. With my sister having a boyfriend, our family would soon welcome a new member. The day before the festival, I took a day off and went home specially. I prepared all my sister's favorite dishes in advance, waiting for her and her boyfriend to arrive. But I waited for a very long time, and my sister never showed up. I called her but got no answer. The messages I sent went unreplied. My sister had stood me up. She didn't come home, and I never got to meet her boyfriend. I went to her university to look for her. From her classmates I learned that her boyfriend's name was Sheng Nan. My sister and Sheng Nan had left on a trip the day before the Mid-Autumn Festival. I didn't believe what they said, but I had no idea where else to find my sister. A few days later, my sister finally replied to my messages. She said she had gone to Sheng Nan's hometown and would be back in a couple of days. Then when the National Day holiday came, my sister came back all by herself. I made a whole table of her favorite meals, but she had no appetite at all. Instead, she felt like throwing up after just a couple of bites. A bad premonition welled up in my heart. My sister was pregnant. She was carrying Sheng Nan's child. I tried to gently persuade her to prioritize her own health, and that it would be better not to have a baby so early. But my sister never listened to my advice. In my memory, my sister had always been a kind and gentle girl. Maybe she just couldn't bear to end the pregnancy. Later I finally talked myself into accepting it. Even if my sister had the baby, it would be fine. Both my sister and I would love the child dearly. Back then, I had just finished the college entrance examination, and was in my first year of university. I started looking forward to the birth of my sister's baby. I swore I would be the best little uncle to my sister's child. But later that summer, when I went to visit my sister at her school, she had been sent to the hospital by her roommates. By the time I arrived at the hospital, my sister would never wake up again. My sister was dead. She died in childbirth. That day, I ran wildly in the rain, overwhelmed with grief. I don't know how long I ran, nor did I know where I was running to, tears mixed with rain on my face. From that moment on, I had no family left. Later I stumbled back home in a daze, only to find myself running a fever. I stared at my sister's phone, which I'd brought back from the hospital, and somehow I unlocked it. I read through all the chat records between my sister and Sheng Nan. It turned out my sister had suffered so much. The baby in my sister's belly wasn't even Sheng Nan's. Sheng Nan had played the poverty card with my sister, gaslit her, and made her help him in the name of love. He took her back to his hometown and tricked her into getting IVF at a shabby local clinic. My sister was his prey, just another recruit he brought in for the clinic. As my sister's belly grew bigger, she began to feel maternal love, even looking forward to the birth of this child. But she never knew until she died that Shengnan never wanted the child to be born at all. My sister was nothing but a test subject. Shengnan used her for his IVF experiment, and he didn't care whether she lived or died. My sister died from childbirth complications, and Shengnan disappeared without a trace. I stared at the chat records, screen after screen of green text bubbles. Shengnan, I don't want to do this. It's wrong, Shengnan, do we really have to? I can find other ways to help you raise the money. Shengnan, don't be sad. I'm willing to help you. It's okay. It'll be okay. Shengnan, I think I'm starting to accept this baby. Do you think he'll look like me when he's born? Shengnan, if I don't make it through the delivery, don't praise the greatness of motherhood. It's only because I love you. From that day on, I had no family left. I don't know how much time passed before I saw a girl. Her name was Chun Kik, and there was always a boy named Song Chusheng around her. I knew what that man was after. At first, I wanted to warn the girl, but then I overheard their bet. Sheng, do you believe that guy Zhu Jian likes me? Is that so? How much do you think he likes you, Kik? If I gave him a chance, he'd fawn over me like a lovesick puppy for years. Then the two of them laughed. In that moment, I regretted my plan to warn her. I wasn't going to remind this pitiful girl anymore. I was going to do exactly what she said, her lovesick puppy. After that, I became Chun Kek's doormat. I humbled myself and gathered every thread of clue and connection I could find, until finally, our wedding day arrived. On our wedding night, my bride proposed to go for IVF with her male best friend. When I heard the news, I was filled with quiet joy. I knew my sister's injustice would finally be redressed. They had made their move. Now it was my turn. This time, I would make all the villains face their punishment. Standing before my sister's gravestone, I finished telling her the story, tears brimming in my eyes. The wind brushed gently across my cheek, just like my sister's affectionate caresses when we were little. I stood up and waved at the gravestone. Sister, I'll come see you again. Next time I'll still bring a bouquet of your favorite red roses. I won't blame you for loving the wrong person. I only want to cherish the blood bond that belongs only to us. This story warns us to see people's true hearts instead of being fooled by sweet words. To avenge his deceased sister, the male lead pretended to yield to vain, selfish Chun Kik, letting her and her accomplice plan surrogacy and baby trafficking. Blindly trusting her toxic male friend, Chun became a tool of crime and woke up only after the truth came out. Chasing empty affection and abandoning moral boundaries will drag people into disaster. It also tells us love should not be a gamble. Those who exploit others' sincerity for profit will reap bitter consequences. Good and evil have their due rewards. Only by holding fast to morality and distinguishing villains can we stay away from traps and live a steady life.